Right. Welcome everybody to another accessible documents session. We're so glad to have Dr. Kimberly Wren here with us again today, who has offered up her expertise and vast experience in creating accessible documents. And today she is going to focus on creating accessible PowerPoints, specifically maybe a little bit about Word documents, but I know she covered a lot of that in the previous series session, which you can view online if you need to. So we also have Pamela Darling-Fascio from the ELC with us here today, who is also going to help answer any questions because she is another one of our college's experts in accessibility. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to Dr. Wren.
Okie dokie. All right, so this PowerPoints are in some regards easier, and then on other things it's like, okay, you have to actually do some things manually. So I'm going to start with the slideshow, and you're actually going to see a lot of problems, and I'm not going to move through it too fast, but I do want to get to fixing the problems, all of the problems that are already in this PowerPoint. Okay, so here's my title or intro slide. All right, let's see. So today we're going to look at headings in PowerPoints, which is a little bit different in Word documents. Alternative text and image with regard to images. We're going to fix tables and links on the same slide. Reading order is very important, extremely important, and kind of wonky in PowerPoint. So it makes you kind of think about things a little differently. Contrast, I'm just going to touch on it a little bit because when you enter this PowerPoint into Ally, it's going to tell you that there are contrast issues. So I'll touch on that a little bit and we'll fix some contrast issues, and then just adding list. Okay. And here's the list right here. So. All right, so accessible headings are important. Accessible headings in PowerPoint include a title basically on every single slide, headings for, let's see, what else do you have it for? Tables, that's really important. That's actually one that we're going to focus on today, and probably one of the most important ones because most of us use built-in PowerPoints, which are already kind of set up to have your headings already there. So it's not really a big issue when it comes to titles and on PowerPoint slides, but it is when you create tables and things like that. Then you need to make sure you actually have headings. And so we'll do that. Headings improve readability because screen readers are looking for those headings. That's also why it's important to have a title on each slide because the screen reader can see that. And I have some, and here we'll have issues with some of those titles with having the same title on several slides. That kind of confuses screen readers. So you need to have a unique title on every slide. Headings help provide structure and organize information. So accessible heading don'ts. So for those of us who can see pretty well, we can see when something's bolded, we can see when something's underlined, we can see when something's in all caps, highlighted, or colored sometimes. But screen readers will not recognize this recognize these formats as headings alone if you just have that alone. So you actually need to say this is a heading. You know, if you make a table, you can't just highlight the first row and the first column. You need to say that it's a heading, because as far as a screen reader is concerned, it doesn't exist. It's just text. Okay, so you can use it, but just don't use it to convey meaning alone. So again, I always get ahead of myself. So use built-in slide designs because they already are set up for the title on the slide and then all the text, and it just makes everything a lot easier. And most of them are accessible in PowerPoint. You might have some issues with contrast if you like particular designs, because some of them are not very good when it comes to contrast. Give every slide a unique title. Now, sometimes you have a slide and aesthetically, you don't want a title. So there's a way to have a title that screen readers can read, but for viewers, it's not there. So it's aesthetically pleasing, but screen reader is still accessible because screen readers still have that title. So we'll do that as well. And then table headings, like I mentioned earlier, really the main issue that you need to ensure you focus on whenever you have a PowerPoint, that your tables have headings and that your slides each have a heading as well. So this is just a slide with an image, and we're gonna fix it because this doesn't have a title, right? But I'm gonna fix it in the sense that it's gonna have a title for a screen reader, but what if I just want this here, you know, a question mark? What if I just want this here? It also doesn't have alt text. So these are just kind of problem slides. I'm telling you what the problems are, and then we're gonna go through and we're gonna fix all of this. And we're gonna use accessibility checker to do that. Alternative texts are important. Any image that you have, any object in your PowerPoint needs to have alternative text. This image does not have alternative text. Alternative text shouldn't be a paragraph. It should be pretty concise, and it just describes the most pertinent or important information about that image. So it doesn't have to describe everything, but it does need to describe the things that are important for someone using a screen reader, the information they need to know. So you don't have to say, you know, 17 green beans on the plate, unless the number is important because it's a math, you know, question or something related to, but just enough information for them to not fall behind, for them to be able to continue to move through the information like any other student would be able to. So you should describe the image. Most of the things that I've looked at with regard to alt text don't say image of, photo of. I know I've done it, and I have to tell myself not to do it because it's easy to do, but screen readers already know, or assistive technology already know, they already know it's an image. So you're just saying it again. So I see a question in the chat. Yeah.
That was just me confirming.
Yeah. So they already know it's an image. It's just easy for, you know, it's almost innate for us to say image of, photo of, but try not to do that because then you're just repeating it twice. We want to make screen readers go through information pretty smooth without a lot of repetitive stuff. So, and they will read the alt text in place of the image, obviously. Okay, let's see. This table has some problems on purpose, so we're going to fix some of that as well. But what I do want to say about tables first, you need to make sure that if you had a header row, you need to actually designate it as a header row. This table's banded. Banded basically means that there are different colors on each row. It just kind of helps the readers, any reader, anyone that can see it. It's just, that's kind of something that automatically happens in Word usually, but you can uncheck that. And so we'll walk through that. But there are no headers. I haven't designated any header row or header column, and I have both. So we're going to see these issues pop up. And here I have a link that is a good link actually, because it's not the URL. So here, the highlighted part, which should be highlighted alone, right? This is the entire URL. A screen reader will read all of that. And it's, I mean, if you've ever listened to a URL read out loud, sometimes they can be really long and kind of disruptive, you know, when you're trying to learn something. So it's better to substitute that long URL with a name that makes sense. So here, the title of one of the texts for one of my classes, it's actually called Digging into Archaeology. And so I just use that title, and if you click on it, it's going to go to that PDF. And I also like to add what it is. So here we have PDF in parentheses as a part of that, so that for screen readers, they know they're about to open a PDF, or they know they're about to see a YouTube video, or they know, you know, whatever web page, something like that. So we'll fix that on this table as well. And we will, well, not so much this one. Let's see, reading order. Yes. So we're going to reading order is interesting in PowerPoint. I think most of us don't really think about reading order, because for those of us who are looking visually at a slide, we tend to read top down, left to right. But screen readers are a little bit different. And so we'll fix reading order. And these are just the steps to actually fix reading order. Click on the Home tab, click Arrange, choose Selection Pane. And I'm going to walk through these because we're going to fix all of this anyway. But it helps the screen reader read you know, whichever text box first that you wanted to read. And you can decide what order you want that to go in, but you should check reading order on every single slide you have, especially if you're adding images and things like that, because whatever you add to that slide first is going to be the first thing that the screen reader is going to read. And so for me, sometimes I work backwards. I'll add my images first, but I don't want my screen reader to read the image, the alt text to the image. I want my screen reader to read the title first. And maybe I didn't add my title first, or maybe I want the screen reader to read one of the boxes first. So reading order is important. Okay. All right, and you have to manually check this. So I know in Microsoft Word, I know with PDFs, it'll say, you know, check reading order, but it's not going to tell you if it's wrong. So you actually have to manually check it and make sure that it's reading it in the order you want it to. And if you use built-in slide designs, then you kind of solve that issue a little bit. And you'll see like the ones that I don't have issues with, because I am using a built-in Power slide design. So see questions in the chat or comment. You mean if you have to include the URL? I mean, if you have to include it, then I would just I would have one that's accessible, you know, written out in words, and then under it, that URL. Yeah, exactly. Include both. Yeah. It's because sometimes you have to, especially when you get into like copyright and you're using where that copyright information needs to be on there, it can be kind of taxing, but you have to give credit where credit is due. So, okay. All right. I'm sorry, I'm looking at, did I skip a slide? Nope. Okay. So color contrast, we're not going to spend a lot of time on it, but we are going to solve some color contrast issues. There's a really good, I know in my Canvas, in my dashboard, I have this course, training.accessibility Canvas course. If you don't have it, then I think it was through, I can't remember, is it through the ELC or?
Yeah, it was with Francis Choi.
Okay.
It's you can register for it on the ELC website. It's a live via Zoom. It's about 2.5 hours long.
It's really good. And I still have the course. I mean, once the workshop was over, I still have the course. So I can still go there and, oh, wait, I don't remember how to do this. I can go back to that, especially with contrast issues. There's a whole section on contrast. So I highly recommend taking the course. But obviously on this page, this keep it simple is not very good contrast. Now, we'll see if the accessibility checker on PowerPoint picks that up and if Ally picks it up in Canvas. So, and we'll play around with that. All right, so there is an accessibility checker in Word. There's one in Canvas. I mean, well, Ally, now that we have that. There's one in PowerPoint. There's one with PDFs. So we're going to look at the one first on PowerPoint and try to fix most of the issues. And then I've already uploaded this to one of my Canvas courses. So we're going to see what Ally is saying is also messed up. So let's fix some stuff. So first, okay, let me move this screen out of my way. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my home screen because I want my selection pane open. But one way to open it is to go to home screen, then go to arrange and scroll down to selection pane. And that just opens my selection pane for each slide. I'm on slide 11. That's what I'm still clicking on. But I actually would like to see my selection pane and all of my problems. I want to see a lot of things at one time. So what I normally do is I just go to review and I click on accessibility, check accessibility. Very good tool, very helpful, and will solve most of your problems. Not all of your contrast issues, but most of your problems. So here, I made sure that this PowerPoint has a lot of problems. So, and as I solve some of them, sometimes new problems will pop up and we'll see that in a moment. But the first problem that we see over here on the side is that I'm missing alternative text. So I can click on this down arrow, content placement placeholder 3, and it takes me to the slide where I'm missing alternative text. So I didn't put any alternative text for this image, so I need to do that. So I can add a description. I can just, like I clicked here and just add, I clicked on the down arrow under missing alternative text. And then under recommended actions, I clicked add a description and this box opens. That's one way I can do it. I could also just right click this image and click edit alt text and I will get the same exact page. So I can put on here, remember, we're not going to put picture of. So maybe, well, I guess it's not. So maybe that's all I wanted this to say. Any questions? And that just gives students an opportunity to ask questions, right? Or if I had this image on another slide with a bunch of other stuff and it was just decorative, I could mark it as decorative and the screen reader won't bother to acknowledge it or read any alt text or anything. It will just skip over the image. I highly suggest not using a bunch of decorative images. I feel like if you're going to use them, they need to serve a purpose in your PowerPoints. That's just a preference thing. And I don't understand why I would have so many anyway. So now I fixed the alt text on here. Let's see. Let's click on it. So that's fixed. So now I'm going to go back over here, see what else I have. It tells me missing alternative text, picture 20, slide 7. Click on this down arrow. It's going to take me to this image. And I can do the same thing, add description. And this opens up for me. So if it's, I want all the pertinent information. So maybe this is a health class and I'm talking about, eating more vegetables. So plate with, 66% vegetables or something. Something like that. And just be done with them. So let's see. So I'm going to go back here. Content placeholder. So now those the problems that I had with my images, they're gone now. They're not in this panel over here. So now my errors are showing that I have a table with no header. So I'm going to scroll down, content placeholder 4, slide 8, click the down arrow. It takes me to this table. I don't have a header. So I can say, oh, I do want to use the first row as my header. And I can click on this and it'll automatically make the first row a header. Well, I also have a column header and it's the first column. So if I just click on this table and I go up here to the tabs up here at the top and I click on table tools, then I can also select that first column over on the left, upper right. The header row is already selected for me because I clicked on that option. So now I can select first column and now it's highlighted as well. And now this table has both a header row and a header column. So I fixed that part. So now some other issues popped up. This wasn't actually here before. So the first thing that it wanted me to do was add the headers. And then after I did that, it starts to show, oh, wait, you have some style issues. And the style issues are actually related to contrast. Let me click here. Let's see. Because whenever I click on this, it's showing me down here that I have some contrast issues and kind of recommending what I should do to fix the contrast. So I could just choose kind of a different colors for my table. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just make it simple. Now I don't have any contrast issues in the table. So I could have done that by just clicking on the table and going up here and picking different colors that maybe didn't have contrast issues. So then here I have a link, a really long URL. I don't want to use that. I actually want to make sure that my link is something that's meaningful, especially for a screen reader, and they know exactly what they're getting into. And this links to a PDF. So I'm going to do the same thing in this cell that I've done in this cell up here. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy my link. And then I'm going to delete all of this. It's also more aesthetically pleasing to the eye when you don't have to have these really long URLs. And then I'm going to add PDF parentheses so that a screen reader knows what they're about to get into, what they're about to open. Then I'm going to highlight this, right click, and go to link. And then down here at the bottom is where I add my link URL or address. And if I wanted to change the text to display, I could, but I like this. It tells me the title of the book, and then it tells me that it's a PDF. And it's an online PDF. And so now we have a better link. Now, that wasn't something that Accessibility Checker picked up. That's something that you have to go in manually and kind of fix and just make sure that you don't have a lot of just URLs out there when you don't have to have them. So it's just best practices. It makes things easier for screen readers and easier for us as well who don't use screen readers. So I'm going to fix this one as well. Highlight it, right click, go to link, and then paste. So ideally, this table should be good. So now I'm going to go back to the top, and it says that I have a slide, missing slide title. Oh yeah, this one. Well, let's say that I want this to be the only image on the slide, because it just looks better to me and I don't really want to have this title hanging over here on the side. So I'm going to add a title, and it's going to say, any questions? All right. But I don't want it to show. So in order to keep that from showing, I go to, well, I'm already there, home. And then I scroll over to arrange over here. I click the down arrow and I scroll to my selection pane. And this is the title. It's highlighted here. This is an eye. It's letting me know what people can see when they're looking at this PowerPoint. This is also telling me what the screen reader is going to pick up and the order in which the screen reader is going to read things. So I'm not going to talk about reading order just yet, but it's telling me all of that information. So it's highlighting my title right now. So if I click on content placeholder, it's highlighting the image. Those are the only two things on this slide. So this eye lets me know that visual learners can see this. Well, what if I don't want them to see it? I just click on this eye. The screen reader will still read it, but it's not there. It's not making my slide look, it lets my slide look pretty, or, this is all about preference at this point, but the screen reader can still read it and it's still accessible. Okay. If I want everyone to read it, if I want everyone to see it, I don't click on that. But if I don't want it to be seen by visual learners, then I just click on the little eye and it goes away. But it still remains for screen readers. Okay. All right. Looking at. Okay. Just took a moment to look at the chat. All right. So I have a lot open here. See, this does have alt text, so we're good here. Let's see. Now I have a reading order issue. I'm going to skip that for a moment, and I'm going to go to my duplicate slide issue first. So I have a duplicate slide title. So remember, assistive technology uses those titles to kind of orient so that people can say, oh, I want to go to this slide. Well, if you have the same title, then it makes things complicated. So you really should have a unique title for every single slide. So this is showing me the second slide that's titled accessible headings. It's not showing me the first one. The first one is actually slide 3. So slide 3 says accessible headings. And then I have accessible headings again on slide 5. So I can change that. Let's see. I'm just going to add for PowerPoints. And now I don't have that issue anymore. So that goes away on my error, or sorry. So that's not one of my errors listed anymore. So now reading order. So I'm going to close some of these so that we can just focus. My mouse isn't working. Why is it not working? Okay, there we go. So we can just focus on reading order. So slide 7. Okay, so first, if I just wanted to correct reading order, because this is something you do have to do manually, it is telling me that I have a slide 7, that might have some, that I need to check the reading order. It's not telling me that the reading order is wrong. It's telling me that I need to check it because I have more than just a heading, text, and then a text box. So let's see, let's check my reading order. So it's going to open this selection pane. And I'll show you how to get to that without going through all this, because you really need to check every single slide to make sure it's reading how you want it to. Now, this is where it gets interesting. So with screen readers, it's going to read, if we're looking at the selection pane, it's going to read from bottom to top. Bottom to top. So the first thing a screen reader is going to read on this page is this box because it's at the bottom. And that might be the case because that's probably the one that I entered first. I didn't enter the title first and then the box and then the image. I entered what was going to go in the box. And then later I came back and said, oh, I think I want this slide to be called, you know, and then I added a title. Okay. So a screen reader is going to read, when we're looking at this selection pane, it's reading from bottom to top. It's not reading how visual learners will read from top to bottom and left to right. Okay. In PowerPoint. So this is not the correct order because I actually wanted to read my title first, and then I wanted to read this box, which is content placeholder 18. And then I wanted to read the alt text for the image. So it's pretty easy to just move things around. You can just click on it, hold it down, okay, click, hold, and then slide it into place. So now it's going to read the title first, the placeholder, this box, and then the picture from bottom to top. So I know that that's probably one of the things that I have to keep, because I actually, when I was making this PowerPoint, I went in and I fixed I thought I fixed the reading order on one of them, and I put title on top, and then I was like, wait a minute, that's not correct. So in this selection pane, it's reading from bottom to top for screen readers. Okay. Is there a way to test it? Well, it's right here. This is the test. As far as having it read to you, I tried to find something. I know you can save it as a PDF and have it read to you that way, but this is the way to check you, because let me show. So now that I've checked it, I'm gonna click here. So it's just telling me to check. So that part's not going to go away, but it's in the right order. It's almost, you can only really fix it manually. And it's not telling you that it's a problem. It's just telling you to check the reading order. So it didn't tell me to check the reading order on all of my other slides because all I had was the heading box and then a text box. So this is built in, it's going to read this first and then the second. And when you start adding stuff to slides, then it'll say, hey, you might want to check that slide. But if you check all of them, which you should if you have a lot of information on them, or just to make sure, here we have title on the bottom and then placeholder 2. And that's how it should read it, because the screen reader, again, is from bottom to top. So for all of these, I should have title and then my box, title and then my content, the text box. So I don't know, let's see. Yeah, okay, yeah, because I tried to figure out if I could, but I couldn't. I know you can convert it to a PDF and then you can check a lot of things, but in PowerPoint, I didn't find a way for it to read it to you. Just know that over in the selection pane, it's reading from bottom to top. So if you want to open that pane, say for instance, it wasn't telling me to check one, and this isn't going to go away, by the way, this is going to stay here. I checked it, I fixed it. It's just letting me know to double check this slide because I have 3 things going on. But if I wanted to just look at the selection pane to make sure that all of my reading order was correct, then I'm already here at the home tab, and I would just click on arrange, selection pane. And then any slide I click on, it's going to tell me the reading order. That's what this is here, from bottom to top. So it's going to read my title. It's going to, and if I click on it to make sure it's reading the right thing, it's going to read accessible headings, and then it's going to read what's in this text box. Okay. All right. So now we're going to look at the same PowerPoint in Ally, in Canvas. So I uploaded it to one of my courses. Let me see, it's not showing the score. Should be pretty bad. Yes. So here's my score. So I'm going to click on this score, and I have a 46. So Ally is going to go through the whole document. It's going to point out a lot of contrast probably, and any other issues that kind of come up. So what? Only 2? Yeah, that's why I wanted to put it in here, because it's interesting. So right here, it's only showing 2 issues, and it highlights those issues. So this is the first issue. It's letting me know that this image doesn't have any text. Hold on one second. Remove this. Okay. So image without a description. So that's what's here. And then my next one is image without a description. So what it didn't highlight is all of those other issues that I had. So those are things that you need to do before you upload your PowerPoint to your course. Click on that accessibility checker that's already built in by going to review, check accessibility. So right now, I don't have any more accessibility issues in here based on that. I mean, and I thought Ally would give me a lot more information about some of my other issues, but it's only saying that the pictures are incorrect. So it's good to use both. You use a combination before you finish that PowerPoint. Use that accessibility checker because you need to check reading order. You need to make sure that your tables have headings and things like that. And then put it in Ally and then check it again to see if there's something else. We've already fixed the images. So if I were to save this and upload it to Ally, it wouldn't show that those images were an issue anymore. Let's see. Yeah, exactly. I expected them to pick up different issues. I did expect Ally to pick up my contrast issue down here. I mean, I feel like Ally loves contrast. And it didn't pick it up, but we are going to fix it because it's not very, it's not good for low vision.
I find that Ally only really finds the contrast in images.
Ah, okay.
They don't pick it up so much in text.
Yeah, so it's just using everything you have and just thinking, how can I create a PowerPoint or presentation that's universally accessible? So this, yeah, nothing's perfect. So keep it simple. That's not good contrast. And all I do is just go in, font color. We're just gonna make it black. But also, sometimes these links are not accessible. So I know in my table originally, when it was that bluish color, the blue link had some contrast issues. That's probably not good to have the blue on blue. But now that I made it black and gray, it's fine. So there's also this link, the WebAIM contrast checker, and that's also a part of the course that you can take. And it gives you much more information on how to check contrast and what's good, what's accessible contrast, because we're not just talking about, we're talking about people who might have colorblind or just low vision, but also I don't like to look at a screen where all the letters are red and the background is yellow. It's just too much, it's overwhelming. So just making it easier for everybody to view. And yeah, do y'all have any questions for me? I think I covered everything. I can go back through some things before we look at the Word document, because I did find a way. I remember last time we had a question about references with Word documents, so I did fix that. Is there a way to limit auto-generated layouts? I don't think so. Well, you know what? Actually, I did see something. Let's see. I saw, what did I see? Oh, this is another way, by the way, to check it. Accessibility checker. You can go to File and then go check for issues and click Accessibility Checker, just in case you wanted a third way to find it. Now, I did see somewhere where someone, I'm going to open a new one, and then here, I think this is what they did. I think they just typed in accessible ones, and these were the ones that were accessible, but I can't remember. Don't quote me on it. Yeah, I'm not sure. But I do remember seeing something about being able to pick PowerPoint presentations that they knew were accessible, that didn't have contrast issues and things like that. I would just say when you're getting a PowerPoint, just keep it simple. Because some of those, some of these background, like this one right here, this outdoors presentation, who knows, Ally might pick that up and say contrast issues, and it probably does have contrast issues. So just keeping it simple is probably the easiest way to go. I would maybe check online and see, because I do remember seeing something where someone actually typed accessible presentations or something here, and it limited the number of options they had. Sorry.
Allison Venuto just let me know too that she's actually working with PowerPoint 2021. I think you're probably on 19. And in 2021, it actually shows the numbers in the reading pane. So that will remind you that it's going from bottom to top. And I'll put the link. I put a link in the chat to the article from Microsoft where it shows that difference there. And if you can ask Help Desk to upgrade, or Campus Technology to upgrade your Microsoft Suite to 2021 if you want a newer version.
So I'm using the older version?
I think you might probably have 2019, which really is not that old. That's what I'm using still.
Okay.
So
now, you know what? That might also, there's something else that I didn't touch on because I kept thinking, why is this not doing what I needed to do? So tables, like in Microsoft Word, your tables, you want alt text. So normally you could go to format and then click this and it shows something for alt text, and I don't have that option. And it's probably because I don't have the newer version.
Yeah, or I'm not sure if you're on the web version either. It doesn't look, it looks like you're on the desktop version, but.
Yeah, I'm on the desktop version.
Okay.
But I think it's the older version that's limiting me, because you want to add alt text to your tables. And I guess the new version, you can do it. This one, I couldn't do it. So do y'all have any more issues on PowerPoint? If not, I can kind of go through Microsoft Word and especially show how I have references that still have the spacing and are accessible. Because that was one of the questions I wrote down from last time. Well, okay, so let's see, what else did I have here? Okay, so I do have a Word document that needs some work. First, I'm going to scroll down because we had a question last time about references. So this is what, I can't remember which one this was. This is for my dissertation. I don't know what style I was using because it changes. So that was many years ago. So when you convert a Word document to PDFs, and this is going back to the last workshop that we did on accessible PDFs, once the PowerPoint slides are turned into PDFs, yes, but you need to, well, it's with PowerPoint. So yes, they do. And that's why when you take a Word document and you turn into a PDF, you need to hit create PDF, because it keeps your tags, it keeps all that stuff that you've done. If you just hit save as PDF, it won't keep all of that. So I mean, it depends. I like PowerPoints, but I think PDFs are smaller files. And you can post it as both. Some students might be able to access one better than the other one too. So if that helps. Okay, so for the references. So these references up here are accessible. These are not accessible. So most of us, we use styles that require spacing, require indentation, and sometimes all extra stuff. So let's see, how can I explain this? I don't even know how to explain it. I just know, I'm just gonna walk you through it. So this is just, you know, a bunch of words. I basically did this by hand. I hit enter and then I hit tab. And then this is what many of us, especially a million years ago, did, right? We hit enter and then we hit, you know, but as far as this being accessible, it's not. And with in a Word document, it's actually okay. But as a PDF, it's going to read these blank spaces because we need spaces between our references, right? It's going to read them. You can mark them as artifacts in your PDF, but if you want it accessible in Word, you're not converting it to PDF, you want it accessible in Word. Another way to get rid of the spaces that I did was I highlight all of my reference section. It's going to be weird. I right click and then I go to paragraph. And over here in alignment, I want it to be left centered. Here, this is going to be 0 for indentation left. It's going to be 0. It is going to be special because I want hanging. And that what that's going to do is ensure that it ensure I need to not do it. Hold on. I need to mess up one so you see what happens. Okay. All right. So now highlight all of this. Right click, go to paragraph, left, and 0 for indentation left, alignment is left, outline level, body text, special, hanging, and 0.5 is good. We want 0.5. And then here, I want this to be 8. You have to type it in. I think 8 looks like the right amount of space between references, but you can pick and choose there. I want this to be multiple. And this number is awkward. It's actually going to be 1.08. I know. But it works. And now I know it looks crazy because now I have to fix it. But it's going to automatically include those spaces. So, let's see. So I'm going to backspace here to let it know that that's a part of the first sentence here and see how it automatically indented that for me. I didn't have to hit enter and indent. I'm going to let it backspace there and let it know that that's a part of this paragraph or text as well. So it automatically indented it for me. I have an extra space here. I can get rid of it, but it keeps a space here that I can't put my cursor on. So it still looks clean there. So I'm going to do the same thing here, hit backspace, letting it know it's a part of the first text. So it automatically indents the second lines. That's what the hanging part is about. And so if I right click on this, so because I said hanging and 0.5, that means that the first line will be to the left, but everything under that will be hanging. It'll be indented 0.5. Okay. And then the spaces here in between the references that I can't click on, that is because I chose down here with spacing after I put 8, multiple, and 1.08. And that's why I have this space that that doesn't have I can't put a cursor or anything on. So it looks better and it's not going to be read as a space. Okay. So I'm going to continue to fix this. These are too far. So almost there. Okay. So now, and I want this to be centered because at least in my field, it's usually centered. So now I have on a Word document, I have references that automatically have spaces built in that are not, that won't be read as spaces by a screen reader. And they're indented properly. but it's all just in the formatting. I hope that helped. Y'all have any issues about that? Or any questions about that? I mean, if not, I can, if you all want me to, I can go through, because we still have 15 minutes, I can go through and fix this Word document again. How do you choose spacing? So I went to paragraph.
Sorry, can you hear me? It might be easier to just explain.
Okay.
I teach math. And so like a lot of times I'll have a math problem and then I want them to have a big space to work. And then I'll put problem number 2. And I don't know how big, I don't know, like how big do I type in that space? I didn't know that little paragraph trick, which is cool. But I'm like, okay, but how do I know like how many lines? If I would normally leave 5 blank lines for scratch work, how big a space is that?
So they are writing it by hand, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So Pamela says 72 PTS is an inch. Okay. So let's see. You can go to paragraph and you can increase this. I believe that's how, yeah, you just increase it. And so the 72 would be an inch on the paper. See how I increase the space? So if I right click.
Yes, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, right click, paragraph, and keep right here where it says spacing after, keep increasing the space. You do need to have multiple selected as well. Thanks. Yeah.
What does the multiple do?
I know if I don't have it, it doesn't do right.
Okay.
So I know I need that string.
Okay. And the at 1.08, like just always use that number?
That's what I use, because it for me, it just makes, that's for good. No, that's particularly for my references. So you don't have to have this here. Okay. Let me see what it is. Let's mess around. Oh, yeah. You see how the letters come?
Oh.
Yeah.
How much space is between the lines?
Yes. Okay. But yeah, so now we have 72. So I'm going to go back and fix it, right click on paragraph, and I'm going to type 8 again. That's good to know. I didn't know that 72 was 1 inch. But yeah, so I guess you could just keep going until you get a pretty good space for your students. And they're writing this by hand though, right?
Yeah, like I'll have a problem and then I say, okay, now I hit return on my computer till it looks like enough space. Then I put problem number 2. So, but that's a good rule of thumb. If I want them to have about 1 inch to write, then 72. If I want them to have a couple inches, then 144. That makes sense.
Okay, good deal.
I keep getting flagged on the accessibility. I'm like, how do I make it? I don't know.
Yes, if you format it differently, then you'll be okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any more questions? Do you all want me to go through this document, or do y'all have questions about Word documents in particular? I can go through it and fix it. It's not accessible. It doesn't have headings. The lists aren't correct. There's no alt text. It has a lot of problems, but I did go over this on the workshop in June, because you have to create an accessible Word document before you can have an accessible PDF. So, okay, yes, go over what you can. Okay, so let's start from the top. I'll just go over what I can, like you said. So accessibility workshop right here, this is my title. And there's the link to the video. Okay, so this is my title. So let me close this. I'm also going to close this because I want to show you all how to open it. So here's your Word document. What I like to have open at all times. Oh, no problem. Thank you for being here. Is my, I don't know what to call it, like my heading pane, my styles pane. Yeah. So I open that by clicking on this little arrow here over in the corner. So here's my mouse over in the corner for styles. I click on that and then this opens. I like this because wherever I put my cursor, it'll tell me, is that normal? Is that the type of header that I want? So right now my title is normal, like a normal paragraph. I don't want that. I want it to be a title, and I need it to be a title for accessibility purposes. So I'm going to highlight it and then I'm going to scroll down to title and I'm going to click title. Now I have a title. And then I'm a subtitle person. Maybe you're not, you don't have to have subtitles. I like subtitles. So Calling College is my subtitle. So I'm going to scroll down to subtitles and click subtitle. And then workshops, it's going to be my first heading. Headings or headers need to be in order. So one would be your higher level heading, and then anything under that would follow suit, like 2. And then if you have a heading that belongs under 2, then it would be 3, and you just kind of, it's a process. So heading 1 is the highest heading or highest level of headings, and then goes all the way to heading 7. So this is going to be heading 1. So I'm going to click on heading 1. And then tips on creating accessible PDFs. That's going to be heading 2. So it'll fall under heading 1. So a screen reader would read my title, my subtitle, then it would see workshops as the main heading, which is heading 1, and then it would see anything that's heading 2 under that. And you could also see, what's this view? No, I don't want that button. Let's go back. No, now I'm just doing extra stuff. What I'm looking for, I can't think right now. I wanted to show my bookmarks, or maybe I'm thinking PDFs. Okay, I'm just going to keep going. I might remember it here in a second. Okay, so this is going to be heading 2, and I do want this paragraph to be marked as normal, which is just text, normal text. It is a paragraph. This heading here, I want this heading to go under tips on creating accessible PDFs, and since tips on creating accessible PDFs is heading 2, this how do I add or fix tags is going to be heading 3. It was bold. This automatically changed it. I can change this back to bold if I wanted to, but I don't. So I'm going to unbold that, because remember before, using bold, underlining, highlighting, changing the color, using all caps, a screen reader isn't going to recognize that as a heading if you use that and that alone. You can still use it if you just like the way it looks on a page, but you also need to make sure that you've designated that heading as a header. Okay. All right. Okay. So, so this is a list, but it's not labeled as a list. It's labeled as normal. So I need to highlight all of this because this is a list that goes under this heading. And then I need to scroll down to list. And I click on list paragraph. Now it's a list. I wanted to have bullets in front of it, so I am going to add bullets here. And I don't like that it's indented so far, so I'm going to bring it over. And that's just a preference thing for me. You could you could highlight it and click on list paragraph, or you could just highlight it and then go up here to the top under paragraph and click on the list, and that'll do it as well. The point is that over in styles, it's labeled as a list paragraph, so a screen reader is going to read it as a list. Okay, so then alt text, that's also going to be heading, I think it's 3. Yeah, heading 3. And then my image doesn't have alt text, so I right click the image, I hit edit alt text, and I'm going to type chimpanzees in a tree. Too many. Okay, so that is my alt text. I also, you could also insert a caption. So it's up to you. I like captions. PDFs like captions. So I'm going to copy this because I've added a caption, but it's really not a caption. It's not labeled as a caption. So if I really wanted this to be a caption, I would go right click the image, insert caption, and then type that here in this caption space. Okay. Now I actually have a real caption, and I can delete this sentence. So I have a real caption here. I also have alt text. Okay. Let me go to chat. Okay. All right, so bookmarks is going to be header 3 as well. Okay, I do want this paragraph to be a paragraph. Assigning primary language, I want that to be header 3. I want the paragraph under it to be a paragraph, so it's labeled normal. We're good. Editing titles under the tables, under the properties tab, I want that to be heading 3 as well. Creating and fixing tables is also heading 3. Here I have another list that's not a list, so I can highlight it. I can scroll down under the styles pane, to list paragraph, or I can go up here in the paragraph section on this bar up here and just click these bullets. And it will automatically, if you look over here under styles, highlight it as a paragraph, a list paragraph. I am gonna move it over to the left. Okay, summary of graded work. Now this is actually under creating and fixing tables, and creating and fixing tables is a header 3, so this needs to be a header 4. And here I have a table, and this table does not have, it doesn't have a header row or our header column. So if I right click the table, if I click anywhere on the table up at the top, I'm going to get table tools, and I can click on table tools, and then I can go over to the top left corner and click header row. Now I have a header row and the first column. If I click first column, it tells me that my first column is also header, which it is in this particular table. Bandit rows is automatically clicked on, and it basically just means that that it's just color contrast between the rows so that it's easier to read. This table also needs to have that alt text. So let me put this up. So I'm going to say what I did. So right click the table, click on table properties, and then at the top here, click on alt text, which is already selected for me. I added a title, summary of graded work, and I'm going to add a description. And I'm going to add summary of all graded items, course, and so add any description you need to have there and click OK. And I had that description here, right? But it needed to go as alt text with the table. So now I can delete it. The screen reader will see that. I could keep it as well, though. I could keep it for my visual readers, you know. So it depends on what information you want them to have. So we can keep it there if that's information that they need to see as well. Final grade is also going to go under this creating and fixing tables. So it also needs to be header 4. And then I'm going to click on this little, I don't know what to call it. Or you can just right click the table, and up at the top you have table tools. Click on that. I also don't have a header row or a header column. All I have on this table is a header row. So I'm just going to select that one thing. I don't have a header column. And then I'm going to right click this table, click on table properties, and I already have a title and I already have a description under alt text. There are other things you can look at as well, like row. So allow row to break across pages. That's when you have, let's say you have one row and it has a lot of information, or maybe it just has 2 lines in that row. It will break across pages if it ends up being, you know, so you'll have part of that on one page and part on the other. I don't like it. I don't think it looks good, so I never check that box. But what you do want to check is you want to repeat the header row at the top of each page whenever you have that table. Maybe it's your course schedule and it takes up 2 or 3 pages. Well, you want to repeat that header row at the top because it's easier for everybody. So it'll automatically do that if you click on the row and check repeat as header row at the top of each page. It will just repeat the header, and then it'll have all the information under it. So students aren't going back to page 1 to see what column they're in or what this information is. Okay. Let's see. Oh, so the first table has header row and a header column because I actually have a header row, header column. So my header row is assignments, points, and totals. My header column is chapter, quizzes, labs, discussion, midterm, and finals, because the information in this cell right here, 6 at 40 points, is related to chapter quizzes, and so is 240 points. So I actually have a header column and a header row on the first table. On the second table, I do not. I just have a header row, and it's just how I set up my table. So if you only like header rows and not header columns, then, but some things don't really work that way. So like in a course schedule, you'll have a header row, and sometimes you'll have a week column. And so for week 1, as they're going across, this is all week 1 stuff. So that's a header column, if that makes any sense. Did that help? Kind of. It just depends on how you design your table. So so for chapter quizzes, everything else in that row is related to chapter quizzes, is about chapter quizzes. So that's why I have a header column. For labs, everything else in that row right here is related to labs. That's why this is a header column, if that makes any sense. But it all depends on how you design it.
I would say in the second table there, Leah, if letter grade was the first column, then that would probably be a header column, because the points would relate to it. So it really just depends on the content that's actually in your table, and you would decide if it has a header row, header column, or both.
Definitely. Okay. So one of the other things that I did, because I'm not going to fix the bottom 2 because we've done that enough, but if you're going to convert this to a PDF, you want to go to File, and you want to go over here where it says Title, and you want to give your Word document a title. If you do this, then when you convert, when you create it, when you select Create PDF, then you won't have the issue of not having a title. So in the Word document, it doesn't really matter as long as you have a title here that's set, designated as a title. But if you're going to click on up here in this panel, if you click on Create and Share Adobe PDF, because that's the way you want to create a PDF, and you want to click on Yes. You don't want to hit Save as PDF. Okay, so you want to actually click up here in the right corner, Create and Share Adobe PDF, click Yes, and then label it, because it will save all of your tags and information and things like that. I'm not going to do that because I already have one, but so any more questions for me? No problem. No problem. You definitely review the last recording as well, because I talked about a lot of ways to make PDFs accessible. I did see a question where if you're using a PDF that comes from, that you didn't create, right? And you don't have access to the original document, sometimes there are things you cannot fix. I've had PDFs where it does not allow you to fix anything. It does not allow you to change anything. So what I've done is just, have a PowerPoint for my students on the information, kind of paraphrase it and summarize it, and make sure that whatever I provide them is accessible. And I'm also, citing my sources. But when I can fix it, it's the same steps that are in the first recording. You would do the same thing with that PDF that you do it when you did create. It's the exact same steps in Adobe. I think it's Adobe Pro. Is that called?
Yes, and if you log into Cougar Web, there is a link where you as a faculty member, not students, but faculty and staff, can get access to Adobe.
Yeah,
to the
you
full
want the right
version.
one. Yeah. Because you need to have access to, let's see, you need to have access to, click on it, to the accessibility tool.
Yeah, if you go to, if you log into Cougar Web and go to the My Workplace tab, on the left-hand side at the bottom, there's a section called Academic Software Center. And you want to sign in for the Adobe Creative Cloud in order to get that tool. And I did put a link to the recording from the last webinar in the chat if anyone wanted to see that as well. It's on this Center for Teaching and Learning webpage.
Yes. And that'll kind of show you how, what tools you need. Like here in mine, I have accessibility tool here, and it'll just kind of walk you through what you need to first put over in your panes and things, so that it makes it easier for you to fix your PDF file. Any other questions? Okay. Well, if y'all don't have any more questions for me, and I can kind of hang out if you do have a question, then I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. And
Thank you, Kimberly.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Kimberly.
You're welcome.
Excellent information. Thank you, Kimberly.
You're welcome. Thanks for attending, everybody.